Hello and welcome to this Zenith International Dairy webinar, where we'll be talking about our Global Dairy Congress on the 19th and 20th of June and some global dairy market developments. I'm Richard Hall, I'm the Chairman of Zenith International, and I'm joined by Esther Renfrew, who is our Market Intelligence Director.
Hello.
The webinar will run for about 20 minutes. I'll start on the Congress for 2 or 3 minutes, and then Esther will present for around 10 minutes on trends. So we'll have a few minutes at the end for some questions and discussion. Do send in your questions as they occur to you. In terms of the event outline, our next Congress will be our 7th for the dairy sector. It'll be on the 19th and 20th of June in Lucerne in Switzerland. Normally we have 120 to 150 delegates each year from top global and regional producers. And this year we already have around 80 on the delegate list. We're being sponsored by Vericap and Colormatrix, DuPont, Sidel and Unilloy, which is rather an impressive list, and the full program and online booking details are on the zenithinternational.com website. Previous congresses have been all around Europe: Amsterdam, Athens and Madrid, Salzburg, St. Petersburg and Oslo. This year's program consists of a conference with the theme of natural opportunity. We have tours to the Emmy factory and the Kaltbach cave cheese stores. We also have some market insight briefings in the program and a gala industry dinner, including the 2013 Dairy Innovation Awards. We've had 145 entries for this from 25 countries. So under the theme of natural opportunity, we're going into conference sessions on enterprise and innovation, leadership. We've got a great leadership panel, sustainability, key market opportunities, and above all, communicating dairy effectively. Our speakers include global producers like Arla and Fonterra and Nestle, regional producers and innovators such as A2 Milk from Australia, Dairy Farmers of America, Emmy of course, Pascual from Spain, Morinaga from Japan and many others, as well as some other industry representatives and advisors, Keneal from France, Global Dairy Platform, Rabobank and so on, as well as various industry suppliers. So that's the Congress, an action-packed 2 days, and now on to Esther and some market trends.
Thank you, Richard. Okay, welcome to the section of the webinar which is about the global dairy trends. My name's Esther Renfrew, I'm the Market Intelligence Director at Zenith. Today, just in the short 10 minutes that we have together, I'll go through some top-line numbers on consumption of dairy products around the world, some of the challenges to growth that we face in the world, what the manufacturers are doing, and then I'll focus on 3 different product sectors: milk, yogurt, cheese, and finish some concluding remarks. So let's first of all talk about the industry as a whole. One of the most prominent trends of the past decade has been the increasing globalization of the dairy industry, the emergence of significant demand for dairy products in large emerging economies, many of which cannot fully service this domestically, has increased the magnitude of global dairy trade. The growth has been further enabled by domestic and internal agricultural policy reform and trade agreements which have facilitated commerce. Another key driver impacting supply and demand dynamics has been the global weather, including droughts in Europe, Australia and US, earthquakes in Japan and flooding in dairy-producing regions. There is continued strong demand and that is expected due to the economic and population growth. However, there will be increased price volatility, and that is what we're experiencing at the moment and also into the future. The main factors of increasing dairy consumption that we've seen is really down to 2 factors, as you can see on the screen. Emerging countries are becoming richer. The BRIC countries, so Brazil, Russia, India and China alone accounted for almost 40% of the world growth over the last 5 years. And this impressive growth came with a strong rise in dairy product consumption. Another factor for rising consumption is population growth. Africa and Asia will accommodate 90% of the 2.4 billion additional people expected by 2050. Zenith expects to see consumption of dairy products increasing only slightly in developed countries over the next decade, whereas in developing countries, demand is expected to grow by more than 30%. This slide shows you the dairy consumption by different product types. Rising population, as we talked about, and rising incomes will continue to fuel demand for dairy products over the next few years. Today, half of the world's population live in cities, but by 2050, this percentage will increase to 70%. As a result of these urbanization trends, demand will focus on the world's largest cities with the highest population growth. Encompassing all the regions and based on our 73-country study, total dairy consumption will reach nearly 320 million tonnes by 2015. Milk remains by far the largest consumed out of these different types of products, followed by cheese and sweetenable yogurt. Over the next 5 years, compound annual growth in dairy consumption is forecast to be double that of population growth, signalling an increase in per capita consumption as well as organic growth in line with population. There are, of course, some challenges to further growth. Whilst growth is expected to be positive and companies will be and indeed are investing heavily to exploit arising opportunities, there are challenges in the market. The first being an underdeveloped infrastructure in emerging economies. Transport, lack of cold supply chain and access to clean water in emerging markets is an inhibitor to potential further growth in dairy consumption. Another factor is varying supply. The ability to secure high quality fresh local milk supply. Contamination scandals have also had a huge impact on consumer confidence, and manufacturers will want to build reputable brands, and securing safe and reliable supply is key. Also, prices are affected by the availability of supply, and as we see in the weather has an impact there. There's also a fragmented retail landscape. In developed markets, the highest proportion of dairy sales goes through supermarkets and hypermarkets, whilst in developing regions, the traditional trade channels such as independent, small grocers and other convenience stores have a more prominent role in the retail landscape. So a fragmented retail landscape also adds to the challenge of accessing the consumer. There's also intensifying market consolidation. Though there's a low level of consolidation in the global dairy market generally, unlike other food sectors, it does remain highly fragmented. In recent years, there has been a rapid consolidation as a result of heavy investment in expansion by some of the multinationals and leading local players, and this can pose a barrier for new entrants and a challenge for some of the smaller scale operators. As I mentioned about traditional channels, that is significant in emerging markets. And finally, there's also the competition from other products which are alternatives to dairy products, such as soy drinks or rice drinks, or even the competition from soft drinks and other non-dairy products. So let's talk a little bit about the manufacturers. In Europe, competitive buyouts and mergers have been the main growth driver for some of these dairy companies, out of which Lactalis stands out. Lactalis has bought a number of companies, including Parmalat. Parmalat was an important acquisition for Lactalis because it boosts considerably the global turnover of Lactalis, but it also enabled Lactalis to access markets which it wasn't already present in. Here on this slide you can see the top 20 manufacturers in the dairy industry by turnover. Danone had its partnership set up with Unimilk, and Sodial also acquired Entremont. Arla's also acquired lots of different companies. It's acquired a couple of companies in Germany, which now makes it the 7th largest dairy company in Germany. And then we had the merger of Nor Milk and Humanity to form DMK, which now belongs to the top 15 dairy companies by turnover worldwide. These are just to name a few of the sort of activities that have happened in terms of consolidation in the market. And some of these initiatives can be seen as moves to create more resilient businesses to better withstand global commodity price volatility and domestic retail pressure. Nestlé, as you can see, is still the #1 dairy company worldwide and has focused mainly on organic growth of late rather than multiple acquisitions. Undoubtedly, the world is smaller as we continue to move forwards, and dairy industry consolidation is a trend that will continue as companies look more than ever beyond geographical borders when making strategy decisions. Let's have a look at milk. So, around 44% of the world's population drinks milk every day. It is perceived as a healthy, nutritious and affordable food staple. Global per capita consumption of milk is approaching 110 kilograms and it's growing around 1% a year. Asia is still the most important consuming region with nearly 40% share of the total world consumption. This is followed by Europe and North America. That said, Europe and Oceania have the highest liquid milk consumption per person in the world, and Asia and Africa have the lowest per capita consumption. On average, developed economies consume around 238 kilograms of milk a year, and this group is growing by about 1.4%, whereas in developing economies, Per capita is around 73 kilograms, up nearly 3% on the year before. China has one of the lowest levels of per capita consumption in the world. Milk and drinking milk products are a key driver of emerging markets' dairy growth, especially in countries such as China. So you've got things like product quality and ongoing product innovations, which are expected to be the main means by which leading manufacturers gain share. Health and wellness drinks with low or zero lactose or low fat or free from fat or organic, as well as functional ingredients, are expected to continue to drive growth in this category. Functionality obviously is key, and also food safety concerns are particularly evident post the melamine scandal and also the horse meat scandal, which has made consumers increasingly concerned about quality and more loyal to brands that can be trusted. On to yogurt. Yogurt benefits from being nutritionally rich in protein and calcium, and some of the key trends here that we're seeing is a move to more natural and organic and free from artificial additives and preservatives, including in some instances the use of sweeteners such as stevia as an alternative to artificial sweeteners. Consumers are paying more attention to the quality and source of ingredients. There have also been launches in the lactose-free segment, particularly in the US, and in Scandinavia there's many products out which are lactose-free. In packaging, we've also seen some moves, particularly from the likes of Danone, who has led the way in terms of sustainability with its plant-based packaging for activity yogurt in Germany, and also a 100% recyclable cane sugar-based bioplastic bottle for its drinking yogurt range in Canada. There is strong contribution to growth from more developing countries such as Iraq, where you're seeing homemade yogurt converting to more industrially processed yogurts, so there's an opportunity there for growth. In more developed economies, there are new consumption occasions, and also there's the rise of the Greek yogurt that we've seen, particularly in North America, with Chobani creating the category and other manufacturers significantly investing in this. Yogurt undoubtedly has the ability to have flavour innovation, as well as the inherent functionality that we have long since associated with the yogurt. Finally, moving on to cheese. Mature markets such as West Europe and North America, really it's about convenience, it's about snacking and pre-packed, moving away from the deli counter. Specialty cheeses, artisanal, and cheeses which have a specific provenance are also very important. We're seeing the move towards more natural cheeses and the decline of processed cheese. And we're also seeing a polarisation in the current economic climate, where private label is doing particularly well in countries such as Germany, the UK, and also premium branded products are also doing very well. Developing markets such as Asia, Middle East and Africa, there's an increased minimisation of cheese here, predominantly processed cheese driven by food service in particular. It's very much brand orientated, although recently we've seen the emergence of private label in regions such as the Middle East. Talking of the Middle East, there's also a move towards more deli cheese, which is perceived as fresher. There's a focus on children, particularly in Asia, in terms of consuming cheese and the calcium that it brings, and food services helping exposure to cheese. So I'd like to finish really with a slide that actually I had put together pre-2008 before the economy changed, and I believe these themes are still very relevant into what consumers are looking for when purchasing dairy products. I think the main difference that we're seeing is that consumers are becoming increasingly discerning and more demanding and expecting a tasty product that fulfills their need at an affordable price. Meeting these needs, whilst this still represents an opportunity, also places some challenges. So I'd like to say I look forward to some of your questions, and I also look forward to meeting you in Lucerne.
Thanks very much. Let's go back to that slide because I think it's quite a good one on general trends, and we've got some questions coming through now. Please do, if you have any additional questions, send them through as they come up to you. The first one I've got is about supply and demand and the balance of supply and demand, and what we think will be the most critical factors. Is demand going to outpace supply, and what will that mean for prices? Do you think that there's a world in balance, or do you think it's getting increasingly out of balance?
The difficulty is where demand is increasing, some of the domestic supply isn't able to keep up, and that may be affected by either the investment in farms and processing processes, or it might be to do with weather, which can severely impact milk yields. So inevitably there is an importance in terms of looking at export opportunities for countries, particularly in the more developed economies, where they can help fulfill some of that demand to other countries. However, there's always a logistical challenge with dairy because of its fresh nature, and there's obviously barriers and tariffs and so forth to be mindful of. But effectively that has been pushing prices up in the past, and it will do in the future.
I've just come back from a trip to India, and I was very impressed with the growth rates being achieved in production of dairy in parts of that country, and I felt very confident that supply would keep up with demand, but demand and supply seem to be growing quite strongly. And so the next question actually relates to that. It's about the how cautious are our forecasts. Do you think that we are on the side of caution, or do you think that we are too bullish about our forecasts?
I think we err on the side of caution. I think what we're looking at is how population obviously will develop going forward. We also take into account the per capita consumption levels and how we believe that will develop going into the future. It's always very difficult to forecast because there are going to be unpredictable events that you can never foresee, such as I mentioned before, whether it be droughts or flooding or so forth, which can severely affect demand. But I believe that we're cautious, and it's echoed by some of the other organisations such as the FAO, who believe that there is still very strong demand coming from the developing countries.
I guess the next question is slightly related to that, about weather impact. In fact, a couple of questions on weather impact. You say it's difficult to predict, but are we getting more extreme circumstances which create more volatility in prices as well, or are we actually having things sort of working out, evening out?
No, and I think inevitably prices will fluctuate. That's something that some companies are trying to do in terms of hedging against price fluctuation. We're seeing at the moment prices going up, and some of that's about pressures on milk supply and so forth, and burgeoning demand. So very difficult to forecast obviously what the weather will do, but obviously global warming isn't going to impact us further in the future, and I think people are mindful of what to do in terms of trying to do the best under the circumstances of weather changes.
Next question is about alternatives and the impact of free from alternatives. I mean, some are lactose free, obviously, as a dairy product, but some don't have, I mean, almond milk and other things like that. Are they really significant, and are they going to gain in scale, do you think?
In some countries like the US, for example, you're seeing quite a lot of demand for dairy-free products. You will have more sort of fans within those sectors whereby maybe it's endorsed by either a dieting program or celebrity or so forth, and then you'll see a growth in those consumptions. What we've seen with soy drinks, for example, is that's been growing but has stabilised and is relatively niche still. But consumers are always concerned about what they should be eating, what they should be drinking, and clearly there's a lot of website information out there which consumers will research and believe that perhaps consuming different types of products is useful, and therefore in developing countries you'll see some consumers moving towards more dairy alternatives. Lactose free is an interesting one because a lot of people think they are lactose intolerant or allergic to dairy, so you're seeing the growth in that, but some of that is self-diagnosed.
Yeah, more people think it than are it. Is
correct.
That right?
Yeah, correct.
We've got a question about whether our presentations will be available. Yes, they will be available. We'll be making them available online, and we'll be in touch with everybody who's been attending afterwards. So you're welcome to that. Best growth prospects, next question. Where is the growth going to come from in the future? I mean, you've talked about a generally slowly rising marketplace.
Well, as you mentioned, India is a country where there's phenomenal growth. That's driven a lot by population and being the biggest milk market in the world. You're seeing growth from China and other Asian countries, and I think what you'll see is more the functional products that will be doing well, so drinking milk products with added functionality. There's very strong school milk programs out in those countries, so you have a lot of children who will be exposed to, and they're the future consumers.
I saw a very interesting comment from a launch by Emmy, who is very kindly joining us in Switzerland, since we're going to visit them on the 19th and 20th of June. They've launched a new range with the feeling that well-being is perhaps more important in some ways than functionality, so more natural and less scientific. Is that, how does that work out? Because we want to sort out real solutions for our lives.
It's really interesting because I think sort of the last decade consumers have wanted added functionality to their products. I think consumers are now concerned about what's been added to their products, so they're now moving to more natural products. The beauty of dairy products is that it's naturally, inherently functional, so you've got so many different vitamins and minerals and other benefits within the dairy product that it's about the dairy industry communicating that to the consumer so that they understand that this product in its unadulterated state is actually very healthy in itself.
Great. Well, we have actually run out of time, so we ought to leave you on our last slide, if I can get that one up, so that if you want to get in touch with us, you're very welcome. We've got the Congress on the 19th and 20th of June. We've got various market reports, and we've got the EMI visits, and you talked about communicating dairy, and that's in the programme for the Congress too. So thanks for joining us, and hope some of you can come to the Congress. And if you'd like to carry on any correspondence after this, you are most welcome. Thank you.